Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Klein, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devin Klein.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
Burn Nation, what is up, and welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. As always, you have DK here with Trisha, and we are very excited about today's episode. It is May 28th, and we are talking here on episode 501. 501. Gosh, 500 episodes.
It's crazy.
You guys go back and watch the 500th episode. It was an amazing advanced nutrition talk that I did on glycolysis and lipolysis and really metabolic flexibility and just kind of going in depth to the science, but also the practicality, marrying those two things together. And 499 was a great episode too. We talked about the basics of nutrition. And here we are on episode 501. It is an amazing day to talk about psychology. And we have a slew of topics here for you. Let me just go over those real quick, Trish, and I'm going to check in with you and see how we're feeling today. What is all or nothing thinking? Okay, in psychology, we call this catastrophizing. And we're going to talk about why that's a bad thing. You want to recognize when you might have some all or nothing thinking. And then also the psychology of fear, of failure, some really insightful videos from my hero, Tony Robbins, Trisha's hero, Brene Brown, and that's going to be a really interesting topic. Why progress is better than perfection and why that wins every time. And, you know, our friend Mel Robbins and James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, great book. And Mel Robbins just wrote not too long ago, The High Five Theory, I think it's called.
Let Them Theory.
What is it?
The Let Them Theory.
No, oh yeah, there was the one before that. It was the High Five. There was a High Five book, and I know she was popular before then, but as soon as she said like the High Five Theory, I was like, okay, this is, and then I really leaned in because that, yeah, we aligned to that. And so, you know, definitely excited to talk with Mel and James here. And then tools to rewire your thinking. Again, a clip from Tony Robbins and my mindset coach, Derek Grant. You guys all know DG. Man, what an amazing journey that guy's been on. He's a brother of mine, and we'll talk about a clip that stuck out to us here in the studio from his content in the last couple of weeks. And then Real Talk with Simon Sinek, setbacks with Jim Quick, the memory expert. He talks a little bit about just setbacks and failure. And really, Simon Sinek talks about how to relanguage failure into falling, which I think is a really good way to look at it. And so, yeah, these are our topics today. It's going to be a very insightful episode, really focused around psychology. And, you know, I have been studying psychology really from an academic perspective. I don't have a PhD. I don't have a degree. I don't have any of that stuff. I've just really studied because I'm interested in it. And I really am fascinated by how the human mind works, because my main goal is to get you to the healthiest, happiest, most confident place that you can. And I realized very, very early on as a trainer that fitness and nutrition, those are not going to do it, okay? Those things that's the hard stuff that we know that we have to do, all right? And we've got to wire our brain to be able to not have to do it, but like want to do it and not be a burden, but it to be a blessing. And that's really what we're going to talk about here on the podcast today. So Trisha, I know that you were just diving into all these clips and studying and researching to bring the best of your mind and knowledge and experience to Burn Nation today. So what are you excited about before we get into segment one here? And just how are you this morning on May 28th?
Oh, I'm great. And I'm so excited for this episode because I think you hit the nail on the head. I've, been a long time fitness enthusiast. Recently, in the last 10 years, really got my nutrition dialed in. But a couple years ago, I just felt like I was spiraling. I was missing that component of like having a healthy mindset. And having this, I was listening, I think randomly on a walk to a Brene Brown Dare to Dream podcast. And it literally was like something slapped me in the face. And it was, since that moment on, I have seen my life improve because I have been working intentionally on becoming stronger mentally. So I think for those of you who might be in that place that I was, where you're spiraling and you're trying to figure out what is missing, this could be the key moment for you.
All right, I love that. I'm glad Brene Brown is here to share her thoughts with us on the podcast through some video clips that she's done. So what we're going to do right now, guys, is just get right into it, okay? The first segment here today that I want to go over is what is all or nothing thinking? All or nothing thinking. It kind of seems like a positive thing when you just hear the headline, but we're going to define it, explain what it is in our health and fitness journey. But I first want you to play a clip. We're going to play 2 clips. Let's play Mel's clip first, and then we're going to play another clip after that. And we're going to talk about all or nothing thinking. She has a clip on why you're not making progress. So let's roll Mel Robbins, and Trisha and I will react to that.
Okay? It's not. In fact, if I put a speaker on it and we broadcast what you say to yourself, we would institutionalize you. You would not hang out with people that talk to you the way you talk to yourself. So get out of your head. Your feelings are screwing you. I don't care how you feel. I care about what you want. And if you listen to how you feel when it comes to what you want, you will not get it. Because you will never feel like it. And you need to get outside your comfort zone. It's not about taking risks, it's about getting outside your comfort zone. Those first 3 seconds, when you push yourself out of bed, they blow. But once you're up, it's great. Those first 3 seconds when you're sitting here in a studio or a stadium like this and somebody says, get up and come dance, and you think, oh, I should do that. And then you're like, oh. That experience that you had where you had the impulse to do it, and then you didn't do the activation energy required to force yourself, your emergency brake got pulled. I'm sitting right here. I'm not going up with those crazy people. I don't like to dance. I don't anyway. But what happened for me is I came up and I bumped into Rachel, and then we started talking, and next thing you know, she's tweeting.
Okay, all right. So so Mel's on stage here, and I just love her energy that she is going to be who she is no matter what. And I think that's what really draws people. That's what draws me to her, who uses words like that's going to blow on stage. I just think it's so funny. And she's a great thinker, and I really enjoy reading her stuff and following her. So I highly recommend that you do as well. And so let's have a take on what she really said. I want to hone into something, and I want to hone into one thing that she said. What she said was, hey, I don't care how you feel. I care what you want. So I'm gonna have a split take on this. First, I'm gonna really kind of agree with Mel and steelman her argument, because biologically that's not the way it works. Like, you can't just disregard all feelings, because the amygdala brain is where a thought originates, and it must go through the emotional brain first before it's then processed logically by the prefrontal cortex. So from a psychological perspective, psychobiological perspective would be, I think, the appropriate way to put it. Then we're going to have the amygdala brain who's going to feel right away. And then you're going to be, the thing she's saying is like, don't listen to those emotions. Don't be a slave to those emotions. Don't show up to those emotions and not think through exactly stopping to think about what that actually means. So when you feel something, what we most often do is we just kind of go with our feelings, and our feelings run our lives. Like, the mood that you're in, the state that you're in, is ultimately the story that you tell yourself. So if you know that you have control over how your feelings are then kind of logically associated with meaning, that's the key, and that's the pocket. And this is a really important thing to understand. We can't bypass feelings. Feelings make the world go round. Emotion, which is feelings, emotion has a signature to it of energy. That signature can either be down the map of consciousness in shame, in fear, in doubt, or it can be up top in joy and peace and happiness. And most often, what gets us into a state of maybe mild depression or a state of full-on depression is that we don't understand this biologically. It's like, first you need to know that the amygdala is the feeling center. It's the emotional control. It's the emotion center of your brain. And you're going to have these kind of adrenal glands that produce norepinephrine, chemical that really tells you to fight or kind of flight. And that happens all before you're able to process things logically. Now, the prefrontal cortex, and Mel knows this, right? She's saying, I don't care how you feel, although she does care how you feel. But what she's really saying is, I don't care to watch you be a slave to your moods back and forth and let your feelings control your fate, or the story that you're telling yourself that you're not thinking about become your reality. What I care about is, what are your core values? What's guiding you? Who do you want to become? In the prefrontal cortex, we have this system called the RAS, reticular activating system. And this is like the heat-seeking missile. It kind of locks into what you want in your life. So if you've ever noticed like a new pair of shoes that you bought, and now you notice everybody that has that same pair of shoes when you never noticed it before, that's just because the things that you want and that you like in life, you're going to notice more. And the reticular activating system drowns out the millions and millions of stimulus around us every second that we could pay attention to, and it locks into what we really care about. So if you know that, then you do know that sitting down and feeling the feeling, and then asking yourself the following question: what does this feeling mean? What does this mean? And you can actually use your brain, use your logic to rework that initial feeling. Oh, I felt sadness. I felt shame. Why did I feel sadness? Why did I feel shame? Am I a shameful person? Am I a sad person? No. Then what's going on with my feelings right now? What am I feeling? And let me associate a positive meaning to that. Do you have an example of that, Trisha? What do you hear when you hear Mel Robbins?
Well, I think a lot of the times when I think about why I get into my feelings, it's more about I'm worried about how other people are going to perceive me. For whatever reason, I might not do the thing because I think I'm not worthy enough or I'm not smart enough. So those feelings come from a place of how I think other people are going to watch me show up, and I'm going to disappoint them. Because for me, that's like my trigger. I don't want to disappoint anybody. I want to make everyone happy all the time. I'm a people pleaser. So I think to your point, you have to dig down and understand, why are you feeling these feelings? And is there a pattern? My pattern is typically how other people are perceiving me. So something that I'm constantly working on is, I shouldn't care what other people think of me. I should know deep down inside my core values and how I'm showing up and how I'm trying to fall, not fail, to be a better person. So that's what I'm hearing through all of this, because it's a core theme for me.
Yeah, and so I want you guys to ask yourself, like, what does this mean to your life right now? Think about, just slow down for a minute and think about, how am I feeling? When's the last time I felt negative feelings? When's the last time I felt shame or doubt? And what does that really mean? Like, does that mean that I am shame, I am doubt, or I have it? And if I have it, then is there something I can do about it? Is there a positive reason? Can I see sunny side up here? Or is it doom and gloom, right? And if you actually look for positivity, if you look for optimism, and then you can actually associate that logically with something positive, a positive outcome in your life, then we're making progress. So let's continue this conversation. Chelsea, could you just give us a quick brief on this is the first, I've listened to this clip, I really like it, but I've never heard this podcast or this YouTube channel before. Who is this for the audience? And it's the therapy, therapy in a nutshell YouTube.
Yeah, therapy in a nutshell YouTube. So she's going to go over what all or nothing thinking is, and then also cognitive distortion.
Okay, that's great. Roll clip.
Talk about all or nothing thinking. Despite the popular belief that depression is simply a biological condition, it's actually a lot more complicated than that, which is awesome because it means that there's a whole lot of options for you, things you can learn, skills you can develop that can make a huge difference. Depression is treatable. So today we're going to explore another cognitive distortion, a thinking pattern that if you do it a lot, it's going to make you more depressed and anxious. So, all or nothing thinking sounds like, if I'm not perfect, I'm a failure. Or don't even bother if you can't get it right. Or if I'm not going to win, I'm not going to try. With all or nothing thinking, you might believe that any outcome less than 100% equals 0%. All or nothing thinking makes you think that if you've messed up, it's pointless to keep trying. This is faulty thinking. It lies because it ignores the progress that you've made. It ignores the successes that you've had.
So most of you know that have been listening to the podcast for a long time that most of my old podcasts, the DK show, was literally all psychology. That's what when we were doing that show before we switched over to the Burn Bootcamp podcast, that was my life. My study was every day just learning about myself and exploring psychology through my own lens, because I had a pretty chaotic, wild web of circumstances and experiences that I grew up with. And so what the Therapy in a Nutshell podcast is talking about really, and I've learned this principle along the way through my studies, it's called catastrophizing. And this is like a psychological phenomenon in cognitive science and neuroscience, and it refers to like cognitive distortion. So kind of automatically assumes the worst case scenario. Like the sky is falling and everyone's gonna die. You know that movie Chicken Little?
Yeah.
The sky is falling, the sky is falling, the sky is falling, right? And what actually happened in that movie? What happened? You guys remember? Yeah, an acorn fell on his head when he was sitting under a tree taking a nap. And now he disrupts the entire city, right? The sky is falling. People are, all the animals are running through the walls, and it's like, the apocalypse is here. And that's what we can do when we catastrophize. We can take one little thing and we make it blown way out of proportion, and we make it everything. I have a story real time, and there's a podcast with a member that I did a while back. I mean, a handful of years ago. It's still out there somewhere. I can't recall what episode it was. But I sat down with a member right here in this very studio, and we got into the podcast, and she was really trying to get some help psychologically. And so I said, she mentioned something to me during the podcast. She said, I have, quote, obsessive compulsive overeating disorder. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. Where'd you get that from? Who told you that? Mm-hmm. Right? I started questioning her because I could read that she'd never questioned that. She said it so confidently, and that's like not even a clinical diagnosis, right? Yeah. That's just like a armchair way to say that I believe that I have a disorder of eating. And so what I actually found out through questioning, when was that? Why was that? Who said that to you? And I kind of peeled back those layers. What ended up happening was that when she was 14 years old, she went to a summer camp, not a psychological institution, right, with PhDs that are clinically treating you for cognitive distortion. A summer camp with like a camp counselor. And the camp counselor told her when she was 14 that she has overeating compulsive obsessive eating disorder. And she said this so confidently as if it was a part of her personality. She had banked her entire life from the time she was 14 to like mid-40s on this principle that I have this disorder that doesn't even exist in the way that she was describing it. I'm not suggesting there's not clinical eating disorders. Of course there's clinical eating disorders, but she just didn't have it, right? And she was convinced that she did have it. And so through my questioning, I got her to admit out loud, wow, that I never thought about that. That's wait a second. You're right. I don't have that. And we actually came to the conclusion that there really just wasn't enough pain associated with her behavior, and she wasn't associating health and fitness to the love in her life like we talk about all the time. Love is the main motivator to anything. Show me the person you love in your life, I'll show you the incentive and then the following behavior. And her life was changed after that one moment. She was catastrophizing for 30 years. It was, I am this thing that is incurable. I have a disease. And every decision that she made from there fell within that framework. And I want you guys to avoid falling into this framework. So my question for you is, what preconceived notion, what belief do you have that was installed in you by society that you've never questioned? All of our pain is rooted in a belief that you have that is untrue in reality, but your perspective is your reality. So you think it's real, but it's not actual reality. It's your perspective. It's not the universal truth, it's your personal truth. So we can change your personal truth. And that's what I hear when we talk about this all or nothing thinking. And it's, I used to say that I was an all or nothing person. And that's just a bad way to move about life. You want to slow down, think have a perspective that's nuanced, and be able to not make one thing everything. So that's my story that came to mind when I heard Therapy in a Nutshell podcast. Trisha.
Yeah, no, and I think, when I was listening to this ahead of the show, I was immediately thinking about people that I know and people that I've seen like struggle with this throughout life, and you really want to help them because you want them to understand that you have to have this growth mindset. It cannot be this all or nothing, because that's not how you're going to make progress, because you're going to give yourself self limitations. Like, you're creating these limitations on your own. No one's doing it for you. And so to overcome that, I don't see the world that way. I'm sure there's times when I have, but consistently I don't. But I can see now that I have more self-awareness and I'm working again on that EQ side, emotional intelligence. I can see it in other people. And when I do, I try and dig in a little bit and try to help them understand and see past what is stopping them, because it's, at the end of the day, it's unfortunately themselves.
Yeah, it definitely is. And so before we move on, I want to just explain really quickly. I want to give everybody an example of all or nothing thinking, or in psychology, again, what we talk about, what we call this is catastrophizing in neuroscience. And there's a cycle of catastrophizing. So I'm going to go through the quick cycle, and I'm going to kind of give like a workout reference with it. So let's say you struggle your whole life with working out. Okay, so there's a trigger for you. You've always struggled with it. So your trigger is that, like, you said you're going to go work out, and you made that promise to yourself, but you skipped the workout. Okay, and then the automatic thought for people that catastrophize is, I'm a failure. I'll never get fit. This isn't for me. I'm not a person that gets fit, that goes to the gym. I'm not a person that is ever going to be able to be consistent no matter what, right? Over exaggerating, making that one subtle thing of maybe skipping a workout, which maybe a lapse in judgment at the very most, but it's not something that is going to require you to fail. It's not a prerequisite for failure, right? You just fell. We're going to talk about that with Simon Sinek in a little bit. Then that automatic thought turns into this exaggeration, like, I'll gain all my weight back. I'll never succeed. And then the emotional response is anxiety, shame, helplessness, right? Then that behavior becomes like avoidance of the actual workout, binge eating, quitting. And then the reinforcement of that cycle is reinforcing the belief, oh, because I'm binge eating, because I'm avoiding, because I'm quitting, I'll never, ever be able to be a person that doesn't skip a workout. This is the cycle that I see with members. This is the cycle that anyone who is all or nothing thinking catastrophizes in. And this is a very, very subtle cycle, and it happens with a trigger. And DG is going to talk about triggers later in the podcast episode. So I want you to stick around for that, because his take on it is amazing. But that is the cognitive cycle of catastrophizing. Now that you know, okay, the 6 steps: trigger, automatic thought, exaggeration, emotional response, behavior, reinforcement. Now you're able to do something about it, because that's how the biology, the psychology works. So let's move on from here, unless you have anything else, Trish.
No, that was great.
Okay. So we're going to continue on, guys, and we're going to move to the psychology of fear of failure. Mm-hmm. Psychology of fear of failure. Like I said, Tony Robbins is one of my heroes, and this clip is one of my favorite clips of all time. Let's go ahead and tune into Tony's take here, and we'll react to it.
The other part is you also have to know that success is buried on the other side of failure. It's buried on the other side of frustration. It's buried on the other side of conflict. And so you have to see this as part of the natural evolution. Said, all failure is it's a speed bump on the way to success. He said, I learned that as long as you keep getting back up, failure is just a speed bump to success, and nothing's going to stop me in this job or anything else I do. I really think we're all afraid to fail, but it's the only way to learn sometimes. I mean, when people succeed, they tend to party. When you fail, you tend to ponder. And in the pondering is when you usually get the growth, the insight, the strategy that'll change your business, that'll change your personal life, that'll change your finances. And so I think, I don't vote for failure for anybody, but to think you're not going to experience it is absurd. If you
When we succeed, we party. When we fail, we ponder. That's what I really heard right there. To me, that is so true. An experience in my life that I want to share, and Trisha, I'll come to you, is just a quick story. And this story is one of pondering when you fail, and not taking failure as I am, but I did. I did a failure. I am not a failure. And you've heard this story before, but for those of you that haven't, just a quick story from the early days of Burn Boot Camp. So I get released from the San Francisco Giants. My dreams are absolutely crushed, but you know what? I shake it off because I got Morgan right there. She's like, come on, dude, keep moving. We got this. Like, come on, move to Naples with me. We'll start our life together. We were dating all through college and professional baseball. She was working with the Kellogg Corporation as part of their sales force in Southwest Florida, upselling Pop-Tarts and things like that into grocery stores, killing it, doing a really, really good job. She was 21, got a promotion to a sales analyst, 22 maybe, got a promotion to sales analyst. And then we moved up here to Charlotte to start our life together. Well, I worked at a box gym after I got released from the Giants called Lifestyle Family Fitness, and I did not like the culture. I did not like the environment. It wasn't what I really thought it was, because my exposure to gyms was bigger, faster, stronger at Lakeview High School and lifting weights with my football players and my basketball teammates and my baseball guys. And then I went to the Central Michigan Chippewas, same thing, only on a much more grand scale. It was all positive, team camaraderie, cheering each other on, you know. And I got to the Giants, and then the scientific part and the nutrition part really ramped up. And my whole experience of fitness was so positive, right? I had nothing but positive experience. I go to Lifestyle Family Fitness. I'm crushing it 8 months in. I'm like the third most grossing trainer in all of the Lifestyle Family Fitness, thousands of trainers that they had at the time. The VP of Fitness comes in, just big, roided out guy. You know those guys are like, your forearms are so big. You're clearly on steroids, which is fine, whatever, do your thing, just don't lie about it. Pounds the table and goes, hey, when you're doing this next year, these numbers, then I'll respect you. Oh, dude. If you know anything about my triggers, speaking of triggers, respect is a big one. Because my name, the Klein family name, had no respect in my hometown, and Devin was always associated with bad behavior. His dad is this, and so he must be that, right? And so I'm like, I'm doing my own thing. We moved to Charlotte, and I market for 90 days straight. I am hitting the pavement, guerrilla marketing. I have no money. I'm broke. I have like maybe $1,000 left over from my signing bonus with the Giants after I bought a car so I could travel around and have some freedom. And so I am just pounding the pavement, hanging thousands of door flyers, putting cards on cars at Target and Lowe's. I'm knocking on every single door up and down Gilead Road. Hey, I'm Devin. I'm the best personal trainer around this area, and I'm here to change your life. Come work out with me. This was my message. I was super confident, right? I even wrote an article called Charlotte's Best Personal Trainer before I even really knew I was a writer. That was like my very first article. And then I did that for 90 days, worked so hard at it. I would even watch TV and scrape Twitter handles off the TV and put them into my contact list. I had a quota, get 5 contacts every day. Day 1, 5, 6, 7 people showed up to the early camp. 5, 6, 7 people showed up to each camp that day. Day 2, a little bit lighter, but about the same. Day 3, I'm pretty light today. I only got 1 person here in the morning. Day 4, 5:30 a.m. camp on a Thursday in April 2012. No one shows up to my 5:30 camp. Nobody. It's dark. I'm waiting. I'm like, they're going to show up. Oh, man. They're not going to show up. It's 5:36. So, when you hear Tony Robbins say, failure, you ponder in failure, this is exactly what I did at the time. I sat there and I pondered. And I asked myself, why is no one here? Does it mean that you're a terrible trainer and nobody wants to show up? Did you scare them off? No, that can't be it. You know you got it. You know you got it. You know that. You've been the leader of these high-performing teams always. You're always the vocal leader. You've always been that guy. So that's not it. What could it be? Gosh. Is it because we're in a parking lot? I don't know. There's boot camps all over the country that work out outdoors. Adventure Boot Camp was an inspiration to me down in Naples, Florida. All they did was work outdoors. Camp Gladiator, all they did was work out outdoors. Oh, it must be that I'm terrible at marketing. I don't know how to reach people. All right, so what I did in that moment is I said, okay, you know what? There's nobody here. Actually, that's wrong. There's one person here. And what you do when nobody's watching is what defines your character. This was what I was telling myself at 24 years old. So I did my own workout. I crushed it. I did it myself. I wish I had video and pictures of it, but I wasn't smart enough to capture them at that time. But I remember it like it was yesterday. I turned the car lights on my Dodge Challenger, my matte silver Dodge Challenger. It looked like a drug dealer car, but it had a big Burn Boot Camp logo on it, 24-inch rims. And I turned the lights on, I blared the music, and I just worked out by myself. And that is the day that changed the trajectory of my life, because I very easily just could have packed it in that day and said, you don't have it. You're never going to have it. I could have catastrophized. I could have said, because nobody came to this workout, that means you're never going to be great at this. And that would have been a failure, obviously. Ultimate failure was to not ponder in failure and to bypass, like Mel was saying, bypass those feelings of being a failure into a logical response, mentally, prefrontal cortex pondering, how do I make this better? Got it. I'm going to do my own workout. I'm going to keep showing up tomorrow. I'm going to get better at marketing because that's what I really suck at. So, pondering, introspection, it's part of this game. We can't be going so fast in life that we don't get really good at asking ourselves questions, my friends. Questions are the answer to everything that you want in your life. If you ask great questions, you're going to get great answers.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, I have a lot of examples of, falling, through work and through just different things of my professional life. But when I was listening to you speak, the biggest thing that stuck out to me is when I felt like I was failing as a mom. Like right when I first had my first two kids, it's more of me not being able to show up as the mom that I wanted to be after I had my first two kids back to back. They're 18 months apart. My husband travels for NASCAR. I was traveling Valentine's Day through Thanksgiving, 5 days a week. He was just gone. I was by myself a lot, and I was being pressured a lot to find myself because I was in this moment of depression. And I think a lot of moms might be able to understand that feeling of all of a sudden you kind of, and I feel like we hear this phrase, and I sometimes now question it, going back to like, is that actually a thing? But we say we lose our identity, right? Because you become someone that it's different. And so I just felt like every single day was almost like Groundhog Day. I was waking up, I was trying new things, I was trying to get out of this rut that I felt like I was in. I was failing. I felt like I was failing myself. I was failing my kids. I was failing my husband, my family, my friends, because I wasn't the person that I wanted to be. And I think in those moments, you can either continue down a path, and I think this is relatable to something at work too. You can continue to say, I'm a failure. I'm never going to get past this. This just is who I am now. Like, deal with it. Or you can dig deep and you can confide in people and you can try and figure out, how can I do better? How can I try new things? What is my purpose? I think that's really what as I was asking myself questions and as I was talking to people, I lost my purpose. And so I would try something and it wasn't it wasn't that drive that really was going to get me to become a better person. And this isn't meant to be a plug, but that thing that ended up changing my life was actually Burn Boot Camp. That's how I found Burn Boot Camp, because I needed actually an outlet for my kids so I could think. And so when I found out that Burn Boot Camp had Child Watch, I was like, great, my kids can go play and I can just have this time to figure out who I am in this space of working out and fitness and moving my body and being healthy. Little did I know that whole moment of my life was going to set me up to change the whole trajectory of the next 10 years. So I think about that being my key moment of failure and where that came from for my triggers, and how that's now something that, as I've grown more self-awareness, because at the time I had no idea. I'm just now realizing this 10 years later, but now I think through how that built me up through those even smaller moments of work when I'm falling at work and I'm not doing what I'm, had tried to set up to do from whatever campaign. I now think back to those moments because that's where I got the real strength, the courage to keep trying.
That's beautiful. I appreciate you sharing that. And I know that so many people can just relate, especially moms can relate to those feelings. And I do too. And I think it's really important that you continue to share those deep, vulnerable feelings. And I know that you've been so impacted by Brené Brown over the years. And I want to play a clip from her. It's called Fear or Failure.
And I had to write down the name of this TED Fellow so I didn't mess it up here. Mishkin Ingawale. I hope I did right by you. I saw the TED Fellows my first day here, and he got up and he explained how he was driven to create some technology to help test for anemia because people were dying unnecessarily. And he said, I saw this need, so you know what I did? I made it. And everybody just burst into applause, and they were like, yes. And he said, and it didn't work. And then I made it 32 more times. And then it worked. You know what the big secret about TED is? I can't wait to tell people this. I guess I'm doing it right now. This is like the failure conference. No, it is. You know why this place is amazing? Because very few people here are afraid to fail. And no one that gets on the stage so far that I've seen has not failed. I have failed miserably, many times. I don't think the world understands that because of shame. There's a great quote that saved me this past year by Theodore Roosevelt. A lot of people refer to it as the man in the arena quote. And it goes like this: it is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who sits and points out how the doer of deeds could have done things better and how he falls and stumbles. The credit goes to the man in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and blood and sweat. But when he's in the arena, at best, he wins, and at worst, he loses. But when he fails, when he loses, he does so daring greatly.
Love that. Kill that.
And
Great.
that's what this conference to me is about.
All right. So, I mean, amazing. Listen, Brene Brown is such a genius. This woman is so emotionally intelligent. I look up to her. I know Trisha looks up to her. And to me, when I hear this, it gives me the chills when she talks about, you know, the person that's in the stands pointing, booing, sometimes cheering, and then you, the warrior out there in the arena, actually going through it, feeling the success and feeling the failure. And it brought me literally right back to a moment in my San Francisco Giants days where there was 2 games that I had back to back, and I was a closing pitcher. For those of you that don't know what a closing pitcher is, it's the pitcher that comes in when your team is up 3 runs or less. That's the criteria. When the game's close, when in 3 outs you could tie the game, that third batter represents the tie ball game, then you come in and you close it. Your job is to shut the door, they say. Hey, Klein, get out there, baby. Let's shut the door tonight. And you can do this every night because you don't throw a lot of pitches. When normally pitchers go for 7 or 9 or 5, 7, 9 innings, they can't play for another 7 days or so. But the closer is one of the most important positions on the field because you got to come in and shut the door and win your team win your club a ball game. And so there's 2 nights back to back. It was July 4th, July 5th in my first year with the Augusta Green Jackets, a high A affiliate for the San Francisco Giants. And I've never played in front of this many people before, 7,000 people, okay? There's a hitter, you may or may not know him. His name is Manny Machado. He's a perennial all-star now. He's like a big deal. Anybody that knows baseball knows Manny Machado. He was like an 18-year-old kid at the time, just a phenomenal athlete, right? And so we're up 2-0, and I come in the game. They're like, shut the door, Klein. Manny's the third batter. So I walk batter 1, batter 2, hits to me, skips off my glove, goes up in the air, pops up in the air, gives the runners enough time to go boom, boom, get on. 2-0, we're up 2-0. Manny Machado comes up to the plate. He just looks like he's about to just take me yard. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit intimidated because I knew who he was. I knew how high of a draft pick he was. I had a great slider. I threw him first pitch slider, swing and miss. I got a little confidence. Crowd goes, woo, yeah, let's go, Klein, blah, blah, blah. Come on, 2-4. Next pitch, fastball inside, 2-seamer, whack. I don't even see this ball. It's like on the moon, faster than I can see it. And we call it whiplash or rubberneck as you're a pitcher. You look around so fast because the ball was hit so hard. This ball went into the moon. We lost 3-0. 7,000 people, they were all drunk too because it was 4th of July, were just booing my name so loud. Like 7,000 of them. You suck, Klein. You're never going to make it to the pros. Go back to college, you bum. Like all this terrible stuff. They were doing personal stuff too. Like social media was a thing. So it was like personal stuff. And I was like, okay, next night. I'm the closer. I'm having a good year. I'm an all-star. They're not going to give up on me on one night. So next night, roll me out. 1-0. Last inning. I come in. Thankfully, I don't have to face Manny because it was the same team. Punch out, punch out, punch out. The crowd goes freaking wild. The same 7,000 people. You're the best. You're amazing. You're going to the big leagues. Watch out, Brian Wilson. That was the closer for the Giants at the time. Watch out, Brian Wilson. Klein's coming to get you, right? It was like a complete boo, like and just the feeling of like almost like mild depression that day, and then the next day, this feeling of like euphoria in the same exact situation. And so when Brené Brown talks about, the warrior on the field disregarding the bystander pointing out fingers, what I hear is not only the boos do you have to not listen to, because you've done the work. You know that you've put the work in, that the practice, the proper practice is going to help you in those times to perform when you most need it. But then the other side of it is the cheers. You can't listen to that either because you're going to get boos the next night. So if you get addicted to the cheers or you get disenchanted by the boos, then you're not in control of your own destiny. And that's what she's saying to me. And as soon as I heard this clip when we were doing research for this podcast, I was like, yeah, I'm telling that story because how much more obvious is it that 7,000 people boo you one night and then they cheer for you the next night? And if you lean into either one of those, you will not stay even-keeled emotionally, and you will have no emotional control or emotional intelligence. Going back to the top of the podcast, what am I feeling first? Okay, great. I know I'm feeling that, but what do I want? And that's what I really care about. So the feeling here is going to be there no matter what. I felt bad, and then I felt good, right? But I didn't allow myself to be defined by the good or bad feelings. I allowed myself to be defined by one thing and one thing only: the approval of myself and my God, and that's it. Only God can judge me was my thing during that season, and that's what I heard when I heard Brené. And I know, Patricia, you have a Brené Brown is a intricate part of your journey, and why don't you tell everybody how that came to be, and then kind of what your reaction to this is.
Well, I think, as I said earlier, there was this moment in my life when I was spiraling and I was trying to figure out why do I have a negative mindset and what are my triggers? And at the moment, I don't think I really thought about the word triggers, but now, again, fast forward, I know my triggers. And for me, I lost my ability to want to fail or to be okay with failing and to lose all vulnerability when I was 16. I was in a church play and I was the lead star, and my parents are divorced, and my dad, my biological father, was supposed to show up, and I reserved the front table for him. And I'm going through this play, and throughout the whole play, this table is empty. I get through the entire play, he never showed up. And so at 16, I had this key moment where I was proud of myself because I was taking this key role. I was a very shy little girl. If you knew me back then, very reserved. And so this was a big deal for me. And so when he didn't show up, obviously that hurt my feelings. And that was actually a defining moment where he stopped showing up for the rest of my life. And so that now, as I'm older and I'm understanding why I react the way that I do and why I am so deathly scared of disappointing people, it's because I felt like I failed him. And so listening to Brené Brown now, I think this podcast I listened to, her Dare to Dream, was probably just 5 years ago. So I went through, almost 15 years of my life just not really understanding why I was scared to fail and how I could actually show up and be okay with being vulnerable, be okay being myself, and not really worry so much about what other people perceive of me. I'm still dealing with that. I'm not perfect by any means, but at least now Brené was able to bring the awareness to me and for me to dig deep and really understand, because it's different for everybody. And, I wasn't in a stadium at a baseball arena, almost called arena, baseball field.
You say stadium too.
Mine is different. It's one single person that in my brain booed me, right? He booed me. He's continued to boo me, and I had to figure out how to overcome that. So I think whatever that is for you, you just have to dig deep and figure out your way of getting out of it. And it's a work in progress. It's not going to be overnight. It's, again, 5 years later, I've had this realization and I'm still working on it every day.
And it will continue to work on it. And that's what Trisha and I are here for, is to work on it with you. We're not sitting here preaching at you. We're telling you our stories. And I know that you have your own story. And I hope as you're listening to her and listening to me that you're following along and you're thinking about this and letting yourself feel. I want you to let yourself feel. We're going to go to Mel Robbins.
Mel, and I wasted my entire morning sitting around waiting for this storm to pass, waiting for the rain to clear, waiting for the conditions to be better. And just think about how often you do that in life. How you sit around and you wait. You wait for motivation, you wait for inspiration, you wait for the fear to go away, you wait for the right time. It is such a waste of your precious, amazing life. Stop doing it. Seriously, there is something that you know you need to do today. There's a phone call, there's a project you need to work on. Maybe like me, been waiting around to feel motivated to exercise. Let this video and this message from your friend Mel be the sign that you needed, that it's time to stop wasting time and sitting around waiting. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, tap into the power in here and just go get the damn thing done.
I love her mentality and attitude. She was just referencing her 5-second rule, which is her tool to help you overcome procrastination. It's just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Don't think about it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Don't think about it. Just do more stuff is what she's saying. Don't, I see business people do this all the time, right? In our company and other companies, and it's ultimately the downfall of any professional. For all my professionals out there who really aspire to do great things in their career, I want you to tap into the 5-second rule, because in business, I watch the manifestation of, quote, fear of failure more than anything else, because people have so much love that they're seeking behind their career. They're not wanting to have a great career to have a great career. They want to have a great career so that their children, their husband, their wife, their partner can be proud of them when they get more. When they're proud of them, they get more love. When they get more love, they become more internally happy. When they're more internally happy, they can pour it back into their work. And so it's this great cycle, but it also can go the other way. Like she's saying, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. But if you just don't have that trigger, you're going to make a plan to make a plan to make a plan to make a plan to make a plan. Sometimes I see things in business, and a lot of times young entrepreneurs, where you don't exactly know what to do yet. And so you say, instead of just sending the email, let's say, just says send the email. You say, well, first I have to get an email account, and then I have to get the right password so nobody can hack it. And then, is it the right email account? Yeah, I think so. But I'm going to do 2 just in case, so to see which one I like better. And then, you know what? I don't have anything to help me with grammar. Maybe I got to work for a couple more weeks because I don't have the budget to buy Grammarly. And, it's like you stack all these things in your way of actually just sending the email. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, full send, people, all right? I want you full sending on your decisions. Be decisive. I'm a leader. I have to make decisions. Decisiveness is a virtue. Planning and organization is not a virtue. Okay? It can be if it's the right style of organization, the right style of planning, but to just have a plan, to make a plan, to make a plan, to then come back for another meeting, to have another meeting about the email, and then to send the email again and say, hey, can we meet on this in 2 weeks? And by the time you have this one simple decision that you need to make, you're 4 weeks out, you've wasted a bunch of time. Just send the email, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it. Trisha, what do you think about that?
No, I think that that's great. I also think you want to hold yourself to the commitments you make to yourself. And I just take this back to even like changing your workout schedule or committing to a workout. I had committed a couple months ago to going to 5:30 a.m. camp. It is very hard to change your routine to get up to 5:30. But I started using this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when I didn't want to get out of bed. I would tell myself before I went to bed, you committed to this. And then I would tell myself to remind myself to count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to get out of bed. And I did that over and over again. And now it's part of who I am. So I think it does work. You just have to have the self-awareness to want to do it and to commit to yourself, commit to your goals.
People are going to talk about you no matter what, no matter whether, but cheers and boos, right? They're going to talk about you positively. They're going to talk about you negatively. They're going to do it behind your back. They're going to do it if you are walking a damn near perfect life. They're still going to say that person's too perfect. like if you are the person that takes pride in doing the right things and having good core values, people are going to say that your core values are wrong. All right, so cheers and booze. Let's listen to James Clear because he talks about 1% better every day. This is the author of Atomic Habits. If you have not read this book, I think you should read this book. Personally, I've read it twice. It starts off with a baseball story, so he kind of hooked me. He knows how to hook me personally. I was hooked into James Clear, and I've really taken this Atomic Habit routine that he talks about, getting 1% better every day through your habits, through your rituals, and embody that in my life. And so I wanted you guys to hear from James Clear for about maybe like a minute and 20-second clip here.
One way to think about it is just kind of basic math. Like if you just look at the numbers, if you were able to improve by 1% each day for an entire year, and those gains compound, you would end up 37 times better at the end of the year. And if you were to get 1% worse, you would whittle yourself almost all the way down to 0. What's interesting here is that everybody wants a transformation, right? Everybody wants a radical improvement, want rapid success. But we fail to realize that small habits and little choices are transforming us every day already. For the rest of this talk, there are 4 stages of habit formation. I'm going to take you through each of those 4. So the 4 stages are noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. Noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. One of my favorite things about noticing, one of my favorite strategies for discussing it, it's called implementation intentions. Many people think that they lack motivation when what they really lack is clarity. They think that they need to get more motivated, that they need willpower in order to execute on a habit. If I just felt like writing, if I just felt like meditating, if I felt like working out, then I would do it. But in fact, they don't have a plan for it. And so they wake up each day thinking, I wonder if I'll feel motivated to write today. I wonder if I'll feel motivated to work out today. But instead, you can take the decision making out of it by explicitly stating when, where, and how you want to implement the habit.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that book is life-changing if you allow it to be life-changing. Like I said, I highly recommend that you all read that book. It has just every line is pretty insightful. There's no wonder why that idea spread like wildfire. And it could be wrong. Chelsea, maybe you can look this up while I'm talking. But I think Atomic Habits broke the record for the most weeks consecutive at #1 or in the New York Times bestseller list. Or it's up there. I think it's like 250 something weeks. Maybe look up the list on GPT and let me know when you're ready. But here's what I'll say about the James Clear take. If we're talking about getting 1% better every day, the underlying word that comes to my mind is consistency. There's one person in my life that's consistent with their health and fitness, more so than anyone that I've ever met in my life, and that's our VP of Fitness, Matt Morris. This guy is an absolute consistency machine. If you asked him, hey, what's your advice on how to get healthy and how to get fit? He'd say consistency. And then Matt, you say, I know Matt, but like what else is there? He'd be like, consistency. And we're like, what does that mean? Doing the same thing you did yesterday that you felt good about doing and repeating those habits, having repeatable days that are healthy, that are empowering. This guy eats the same foods. It's super clean, right? He has this, whether he's in camp or whatever modality of working out, it's planned out. He knows when he's going to the gym. He doesn't skip. He has a plan, and he incorporates the fitness and nutrition together better than anybody I've ever seen do it. I mean, like this guy is so impressive. If you've never got a chance to work out with Matt on Burn On Demand, you got to work out with us on Burn On Demand. He's our lead trainer as our VP of Fitness there. And, you know, you just see him like go back and look when I first hired him as the head trainer of Burn Bootcamp Huntersville till now. He's done the exact same thing every day with this fitness every week. The guy's gained like 20 pounds of muscle over the last, 8 years or so. And it's all natural. It's all natural. There's nothing outside of good food, mechanical load, mechanical tension, and high and adequate protein. And so I just wanted to give Matt a shout because he is a representation of getting 1% better every day. And I wanted you all to, if you need some inspiration, need some motivation, go work out with him on Burn On Demand. You'll see the energy that I'm talking about because he transfers that right to you only because he feels it. So shout out to Matt Morris and consistency and James Clear and 1%. You definitely have friends who practice that here, James, at Burn Bootcamp. Trisha, consistency, 1% better every day. What comes to your mind?
I think don't overcomplicate it and don't overwhelm yourself with it. It's also something that's learned, right? You have to kind of fall. We're going to get to that here in a second, which is, it's definitely reframed my thoughts of like failure. If you have a goal, give yourself little milestones to get there. So if your goal is, you know, maybe you want to lose 10 pounds, or you want to run a full marathon, or whatever it is, give yourself little minor little goals, small wins is what we call them at Burn Boot Camp, and check them off. So one step at a time, and then over the course of your plan, you'll see and you'll start to feel more confident because you're checking those wins off, and then you're adding a new one, checking it off, adding a new one. So that would be my tip, and that's something that I take and I practice personally as well.
Yeah, and you do, and you are very, very consistent as well. And I think that Matt calls that the rub. He said, hey, when I'm around you, I get the rub, and when I'm around him, I get his rub, and what you're really good at, we rub off on each other, and that's all that's what a community is, right? That's what we have at Burn Boot Camp, and at scale, the network effects of Burn are we rub each other's best trait. When we are training next to each other in camp, we're rubbing off on each other. My best trait makes your trait in that regard a little bit better, and that's also part of about like 1% is surround yourself with a community with people that have the rub effect, and we call it the network effect, where every time a workout's done, every time there's an increase in confidence, that confidence is then felt energetically because every emotion, every state of being comes with an emotional signature. So you don't have to tell people, they just feel your energy, and that emotional signature, when you're consistent, is a very positive one, up the scale of consciousness into those joy and happiness and peace emotions. And this is really what makes a community, not just showing up and working out together, yay, ha ha, high fives, rah rah. It's about, hey, with me right now, 10 more reps. And then she's like, oh, I don't know, I think I got 8. I'm like, we got 10, right? And that little confidence as her trainer will rub off on her. And so a lot of us need to rewire our thinking because we haven't thought like this in a long time. So we're gonna move on to a Tony Robbins clip. He's on Dr. Oz show discussing with a panel. This is one of the most famous clips out there for rewiring your brain. Let's roll the Tony Robbins clip.
Just a simple understanding of concept. All of you have targets, things that you're after. If you're going to get a new result, if you're going to grow your business, if you're going to be able to support your mom, if you're going to get rid of the anxiety, if you're going to be able to overachieve and not have all that fear inside of you, you obviously need to get a new result. You're going to have to get new action. We all know that. You don't get new results with old actions doing the same thing. Exactly. What human beings can do, this is a human being, believe it or not, I majored in art. What human beings can do is amazing. What they will do is usually disappointing. It's not because we're not capable of it. It's because we don't have new actions because we get in certain emotional states that dominate us, like anxiety, like fear of failure, right? Like the fear of the loss of your mother as an example. So if you're in a state of fear, you're going to behave very differently and get very different results. That's what that means right there. Then if you were in a place of being courageous or bold or warm or connected or playful, any of those. So the most important key to changing your life in any situation is to change results, you got to change behavior. But to change behavior, you got to change the emotional state you're in. Now, how do you do that when you don't feel like it, right? Or it feels overwhelming? There are 2 ways, and I've done this with the greatest athletes in the world. I've done this with 4 different presidents of the United States. I've done it with billionaire clients. All you have to do to change your state is not try to think your way there, like I'm happy, and do a bunch of affirmations. Your brain's gonna go, BS, you are not happy, right? What you need to do is make a radical change in the way you use what we call your physiology. It's a big word, it just means the way you use your physical body. The way I'm speaking right now, because I got 5 minutes also, is sped up just a little bit. But if I said to you, there's a depressed person behind curtain number 1 over there, and I'll donate $100,000 to your best charity, your favorite charity, if you could describe what they're like physically. Tell me what's their posture like if they're depressed? You tell me.
Slumped over.
Slump. Where's their head? Where's their head?
Down.
Down. Are they breathing full or shallow?
Shallow.
And are they talking really fast or more slow?
Slow.
Loud or quiet?
Probably quiet.
You're all saying the same thing. How's that possible? Because you've all practiced this crap before, haven't you?
No.
But here's what you can find. If you take that same person and you change the tempo at which they move, you bring their shoulders back and change their breathing pattern, if they make a faster gesture, if they speak more rapidly, it fires off a different biochemistry in you. And in that state, you will take radically different actions. In fact, I've taught this for 40-something years.
Okay, do you hear what he said right there? Your physiology is the trigger, right? That trigger that's going to get you in a better state. When you're in a better state, you have a better story. Tony Robbins has been a hero of mine, literally a father figure. When I was in junior high school, I think my parents were like trying to figure themselves out a little bit, but weren't really leaning into it because I found a dusty old Personal Power CD, Tony Robbins, the CDs that he made back in the day, the audio programs. And I remember I had the Never Skip bump resistant Sony Walkman, and I lived close to my junior high, so I'd either ride my bike to school or I'd walk to school. And I remember a couple years in a row where I for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe it was just like a alignment, like a God alignment thing, I put this CD in my life to talk about it today. I can't remember exactly why I was like into it, and probably subconsciously I didn't have a father figure that I looked up to, and I was seeking out like some advice and like, how do I know there's more to life, but I'm confused and I'm lost. How do I navigate this? I just need a way. And ever since I listened to that Personal Power CD over and over, I could probably recite every word of it still to this day. And I still go back and listen to some of the seminars online, Tony Robbins, from his Personal Power CD. But I've been to the Business Mastery Conference with Tony. Morgan and I got a chance to meet Tony. I got a picture in my office where we got a chance to meet him and just tell him about Burn Boot Camp. And he had heard of it because we had the West Boca gym that we owned as a company unit, which made me feel really good that my hero like knew about my work. And so then we went out to San Jose, California, and went to Unleash the Power Within. And I highly recommend, if you're in a place of struggle right now, that you lean into one of his seminars. They're the most sought after seminars in the world. It's like a club. It's like a dance party. It's like a psychology dance party. It's a really interesting way that he kind of puts it all together. And it's been my belief strongly that this is what he said it, right? Physiology, right? The state that you're in physiologically will drive the psychology, it will drive the mindset. He said when your chest is up and your shoulders back, you won't just have a little shift, you'll have a radical shift. And you can see him snapping because he's trying to get you to believe him. And he's saying, hey, move your body. Move your body. Clear the clutter out of the way, like Mel was saying earlier. Don't just procrastinate because it's raining outside. No, we go. You don't need a trainer. You don't need burn. What you need to do is just go. You just need to run. You get your heart rate up. Do 30 seconds of high knees. Anytime I speak on stage, I follow Tony's path, and I'm always getting people up before we get into high knees, sprinters, high five, dance music, partying, jumping around, and I'm the energy on the stage for them. And if you watch me do my speaking, then you're going to see a lot of Tony Robbins in me because it just moved me so much, and he influenced me in such a deep way. He had this thing called the Hour of Power. And I didn't want to copy him verbatim, but it is his idea, so I call it the Power Hour. All right, and not the Power Hour that we do in college, where every hour or every time Thunderstruck comes on or whatever for an hour we take a shot. I'm talking about 20 minutes doing what he's saying, igniting your physiology first thing in the morning. If I get my physiology right, bang, first thing in the morning, 20 minutes of demanding training, running, sprinting, boxing, push-ups, recovery even, corrective exercise even, 20 minutes of sauna and meditation and prayer. Morgan and I do this every morning together. And then we get right into the cold plunge, 1 or 2 minutes. She goes, I go, and then I go meal prep for the next 20 minutes throughout my day. I'm making my kids breakfast before they even get up. I'm meal prepping for me by the time they get up. I've owned that morning. And this is recent because I was 220 pounds 30 days ago. 30 days ago. Go listen to the nutritional podcasts that came out on episode 499 and 500. I could tell you more about the story, but I started really leaning into this and doing it every morning just 30 days ago. Before then, I would do it periodically. I would do it only when I felt like it. And the difference in my life is absolutely incredible. This Power Hour for me is now something that I look forward to every morning. I'll go to bed just so I can sleep, just so I can get up and do it because it means so much to me. And the body and the mind always wants to be comfortable. And if you know that if you just move, you don't even need to think about it. You don't need to have the highest IQ in the world. If you just move your body and you ignite that physiology, if you get out and do 5 sprints in the morning, your day will be so much better. You'll be so happy that you did it. Trisha.
Yeah, no, I think for me, just when I think about rewiring my thinking a lot, something that's helped me is when I feel that moment of depressed with all the things that they were describing, where I'm feeling like my shoulders are down, my vibe, my energy is off. I'm aware of other people's energies. So I also am trying to be more mindful of mine, and something that I'm trying to do better of is ask myself questions. Why am I feeling this way? Recently, something surprising happened to me, and I felt like I disappointed somebody, and it really just brought me down. It brought my energy down. I felt like people were talking about me. And so I started to think, why am I acting this way? And I asked myself these questions and talked to people around me to try and build myself back up. So I think that just having that self-awareness, and a lot of what we are talking about on this podcast is having the self-awareness to acknowledge when you're in these ruts and to help yourself get out of them, because at the end of the day, you're going to be the only one that can help you, right? So I think that that's where my biggest tips would be: if you have that negative thinking pattern, stop, pause, and ask yourself the questions, journal whatever you need to do, meditate, all of the things that Devin just said to get yourself out of that rut, because you can.
So we're going to roll a clip by DG Mindset, Derek Grant. He's on Burn On Demand. He has a program called Mindset. You can get a free trial of Burn On Demand and tap into his content. Then you can decide whether you'd like to join or not. But on top of our Burn On Demand lives and the hundreds of different modality or content within multiple modalities, from recovery to yoga or motion is what we call it, to mindset. We're going to do a lot more with nutrition on Burn On Demand. Matt Morris goes Monday through Friday live, 9 EST. And Derek was sitting here not too long ago, and he was getting after it right on this very floor with us. And this is my personal mindset performance coach, more so like my brother. We walk hand in hand in this journey, and I'm helping him out with his business and really growing out, because I believe in his message so much. It's helped my life so much. I'm helping him with the business to get his message out there. And honestly, he doesn't need that much help, because his organic message is just growing rapidly. And I'd like to roll DG here for you guys and introduce you to my personal mindset performance coach, part of the DK entourage. Here we go.
Your subconscious mind to success is becoming aware of what you were unaware of. See, we don't realize the subconscious is responsible for 95% of our daily actions. 95% of your daily actions are subconscious. That means they're below your level of awareness. So I got to become aware of what I'm unaware of. Well, how do we do that? This is why you get triggered. This is why you feel insecure. This is why you feel fear. This is why you feel shame. The reason why all these lower energies come up, it's because it's showing subconsciously what's being told below the surface. So start to use your triggers as your friends by asking yourself, why is this bothering me? What is this bringing up inside of me? When did I feel this same exact emotion from my past? And when you get to the root of it, this is when you can take up the whole tree.
Ooh, and you notice there's a comment on this video. It says, from Alex Miller Official, this man is a doctor, a healer, a whole lot more than just a normal motivational talk that the rest are going to. And DG gets it. When I met him a long time ago, he was in a dark place himself. He'll tell you this story. But I saw, like I do, I see the power inside of people before they can see it in themselves. And I hired him to go be a speaker at the Young Presidents Organization group I was a part of, or YPO. And I met him then. We didn't talk for a couple years. He popped up in my Instagram feed with 500,000 followers later, just talking to a camera. And I reached out to him at the perfect timing. It was divine intervention, because I was really going through it. And I was like professionally very happy. Everything around me was awesome professionally. My franchise partners were happy, making a lot of money. Our business internally, we're growing. The home office, is incredible employees, wife, kids, like all the things that anybody could want as an entrepreneur. I always dreamed of like living on the water one day. I was fortunate enough, because of your engagement into the brand and what it's done for your life, to fulfill that dream and that destiny. And that's all I ever wanted or really needed, and not needed, but that was like the entrepreneurial dream for me. And then after that, it was like I wasn't finding any fulfillment personally. My health was going south. Once I had children, I just started disregarding my nutritional principles and not practicing what I was preaching, and saying one thing but doing another, breaking promises to myself, and compounded promises equals misery. So I reached out to Derek right when I saw him speaking. He spoke right to my heart. I was not at my lowest point, but I was on my way. And he's been so helpful for me to be able to understand this trigger ideology of the subconscious trauma that shows up physically We don't always reverse engineer that process, right? That kind of like the catastrophizing we were doing earlier. I was doing a lot of catastrophizing. A trigger would happen, and I would justify it, blah, 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 the whole steps, and I would reverse engineer and say, why am I feeling this way? And what he taught me is that what I was really experiencing was this problem of excess potential. The metaphor is I was trying to take 10 square pegs and put in like one round hole, when only one round hole can fit one round peg. And I had too much masculine energy and not enough feminine energy, the yin and the yang. The waves come in, the waves go out. The breath goes in, the breath comes out. And I was go, 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 ambition, 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 more gyms, more members, more impact. It wasn't about money ever for me. It was always about how can we do more burn? How can we get burn everywhere? I will put myself in the dirt in order to do that. And there was no relaxing energy. There was no waves coming back out. There was no feminine energy. And so he's really taught me to tap into that. And now you guys can probably tell that have been following me for a long time. I'm a much more calm, even keeled, consistent, reliable, and 100% of myself. When I was not feeling good, any time I would feel, I would just try to distract myself, stuff my face in front of a TV, go out with friends and have some drinks and just let it go and numb it out, you know? And that wasn't good behavior, and he taught me to really tap into that feminine energy. And hopefully you guys can see that even in the podcast listeners, in my tone, my energy, my conviction. I'm just so clear mentally now. And follow DG right now. It's going to change your life, Trisha.
Well, I was just going to hit on the fact that you brought your mental coach to us. He's on Burn On Demand, and we have a mindset category. If you guys are into this, go to our app and tune into the mindset category. It's straight from DG.
All right, guys, so we're going to move on to the last segment today, bouncing back from setbacks. We've talked today, the theme has been about failure. It's been about how to process failure. It's been about some subconscious. It's been about triggers. It's been about actually thinking about how we're feeling. Feeling first is inevitable, and then thinking about how we're feeling and associating a positive meaning to it. That's what this is all about. I want to play 2 more clips back to back. I want to hear Simon Sinek, then I want to hear Jim Quick. Let's do that right now.
All the stuff you talk about, challenging and pushing boundaries, means if you're pushing boundaries and you're thinking big, you're going to fall a lot. It happens. There's no such thing as innovation without experimentation, and experimentation inherently requires failure. And I think a lot of companies that are too finite-minded, they fear failure. They fear, well, let me restate. I actually don't like the word failure. You know, you hear it a lot, which is, we have a fail-fast culture, you know? Mm-hmm. I think the problem with the word failure is it's like the word cancer, which is there's a huge difference between stage 4 liver cancer and melanoma, and a mild melanoma. But they're both called cancer. That's the problem. And there are failures which are minor and overcomable, and there are failures that are catastrophic. But the problem is they're both called failure. I like the word falling. Failure we should work very hard to avoid. But falling we should encourage, because you can get back up.
I love that, and I think the Jim Quick one actually takes this one step deeper. Chelsea, great job on clip selection today. Literally, this is my favorite clip selection you've done so far. And Jordan, you guys are killing this. Thank you. If you guys get a chance to comment on YouTube or give us a review on Apple, don't forget producer Chelsea and producer Jordan out here killing the game, y'all. I love it. I love it today. It's really going to help a lot of people. And so then Jim Quick goes a little bit deeper, and he says, okay, how do you now learn from your mistakes? I want you to not focus on failure, but focus on falling. Language patterns, we'll touch on that. And then Jim Quick's like, hey, how do you learn from your mistakes? Roll clip.
Make mistakes old. Number 1, O stands for own the mistake. Be responsible for it. Don't blame other people. And if you could fix it, fix it. If you hurt somebody, apologize for it. The L stands for learn from it, because that's what mistakes are there for, right? People always think failure is the opposite of success, but we know that failure is part of success. When we make mistakes, we get feedback that allows us to change course, and we learn from it, and then we grow. And then the D in old, once you own it, once you learn from it, the D is don't repeat them. Yeah. Because if you make a mistake once, it's a mistake. But if you make it again and again and again, it's a choice.
So what I really want you guys to hear today, when you hear Simon talk, what I really want you to pick up on is the language patterns he's using. He doesn't use I am a failure. He says I fell, or I fall. I fell, I fall, I'm falling. Rather than I'm a failure, I'm failing, and that's who I am. Falling is something you do. And he's like, that's much better, because now you can get back up. And to me, this language patterns, there's a language pattern that is common in successful people or winners and there's a language pattern that's common in losers or people that are not necessarily, I'm not trying to be offensive in saying that, or people that are not willing to, like people that are just giving in to all the things we're talking about not to give into. One of those is language patterns. You'll hear somebody that's struggling and you'll hear the language pattern in them and they'll say, I am. They'll be very definitive. We're talking a lot about the subconscious, going back to DG today, and what the subconscious does is it hears the exact word you're using verbatim and it does not know how to interpret the meaning that you meant. All it hears is the word and it will store that, and that will become your personality, and then you'll start to have that word, that definition, and that personality shift then starts to impact your behaviors. Follow me here. Then your behaviors, when you act out in the world, becomes your experience. And then when you have an experience, then you get to reinforce the language patterns or the belief systems that you had. Okay? So there's that cycle of I say I'm a failure. Okay? And then my subconscious is going to believe I am a failure. Then failure is going to become part of my personality. I'm going to have shame. I'm going to have doubt. I'm going to have ill will. I'm going to have down the negative scope of energy. And then when I have negative energy going into an experience that should be positive, I'm going to find ways to say, that workout, that gym, I knew it was going to suck. I knew that it wasn't going to be for me. Like, told you so, self, right? And you have this vicious cycle of reinforcement, self-sabotage in a way. And I want you to just hear that your language will be your life. Your language will be your life, and it most manifests itself in fitness and nutrition especially in nutrition, when you over-exaggerate or catastrophize how hungry you are. We're slaves to this cycle, this hormonal cycle, ghrelin, leptin. Hunger hormone, ghrelin says I'm hungry. Leptin comes around, says I'm full. If you always listen to ghrelin, and that's like ghrelin the gremlin, I call him, because it's the one that makes you hangry, and you feel like I'm gonna die if I don't eat a cow. If you actually give into that and you language yourself that way, your subconscious is gonna say, oh shoot, we're gonna die. We need to feed right now. So then every time ghrelin comes up, you feed, you get these excess carbohydrates, your insulin spikes, you become insulin resistant. Now every time you eat, your body fat is your food is optimizing for body fat, and then you wake up 4 years later and you're 40 pounds overweight. You wonder why. Is because your language originally set off subconsciously your personality, which took you into behavior, which took you into experience. And that reinforcement cycle is so vicious, but the good thing is it can also reverse out and go the other way. Trisha, last take, we're going to get them out of here.
I think quickly, tying it all back together, is we talked about setting goals and setting small wins. When you're setting a goal and you're setting your small wins, also take account for times that you are going to fall, right? And this actually clip has now repositioned my thinking of not failing, but falling. You're going to fall, and that's okay. So account for that in your steps towards your goal. Make sure that you know that that's just a growth opportunity for you. You're going to get back up and you're going to keep going.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember, slow down, feel your feelings, but then realize that you can't be controlled by feelings. That's the main theme of today, and that you have this amazing brain, this cognition, and we get to associate a positive, optimistic meaning to some of those negative words or negative feelings that we may have. And with that being said, we're going to take you out like we always do. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube so you never miss a podcast. Or Apple, leave us a review. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.